Good evening, good afternoon, good morning as per your time zone. I know many of them joined from the very once again welcome to the Western Sydney Salesforce Developer Group. Thank you for registering and joining the today's session. We speaker Ravi Narayanan today with us sharing about how to build your Chrome extension using LWC LWR. Today agenda coming and the news and updates and announcement section, and Ravi will be covering about build your using LWC, and finally we will be planning to share summary and resources. A little bit about myself. My name is Shaktivel Madhesh, and I am a senior Salesforce developer working with Tech4 Services Sydney, Australia, and also I am a community group leader for the Bella Vista. I am actively social channels, so you can reach out to me any of these channels. Regarding the updates and announcement sections, regarding the group of organizing the events regularly and also posting the group's activities in this channel, please feel free to follow the channel and then join the group and to get the updated information, either the event information or any regarding the announcement, like Salesforce announced today about the Salesforce MEP class of 2023. So, many congratulations behalf of our trailblazer to the new Salesforce MEP class of 2023, and they selected 24 Salesforce MEPs and around 88 renewed for the old MEPs, and also they announced the Hall of the Fame Salesforce MEPs, really a great assets to the community, and they across the globe and sharing their knowledge to the community. It's really help others to place their trials. The TrialGate Quest, it's a favorite of the TrialGate team keep on adding the challenges in the TrialGate. If you log in your TrialGate account, you can see the TrialGate. In this month there are 5 TrialGate tests available. So the first one, it's a road to Trailblazer 3. Like Trailblazer DX 23 program happen on next month, which is the 2 weeks time from now. It's a in-person event in San Francisco, or streaming through the Salesforce Plus channels through the live telecast. That's happening on March 7 and 8, 2023. From our time, so it's 8 and 9 for the next month. So preparing for that particular Trailblazer DX event, so you can complete this quest and to understand about that event. So once you completed this trial mix before the due on March 6, you have a chances to win the Trailblazer goodies and some certification voucher also. Good news from the Australia Trailblazer. Now the TrialGate team is now enabled the eligible for the Australia to get this goodies and certification vouchers. Australia country is not eligible to get this goodies or certification voucher. Now the TrialGate team enabled. That's a good news. The next one for Spring 23 guest. The Spring 23 is the recent release. To completing these trial mix, you can get to know, familiarize from the admin developer perspective what things happen related to Spring 23. And also, not only that, once you completed this trial mix, you have a chances to unlock a community badge and also have a chances to win a certification vouchers. Solution like an integration architect test, it's due on March 31st, and deliver success now with customer 360. That's in the due for this. And ask the TrialBlazer test. That's also due for this month. So try to complete and learn something new from the TrialGate test. And the next also, I strongly recommend it for the developers. The Salesforce developers. Adding a short the technical videos in Salesforce developer YouTube channel, one of the quick days. I strongly recommended watch all the videos, 5 to 10 minutes videos only. It's really useful for improving all the new topics. And then the next one, the Salesforce certification days. The March 2023, we have they announced some of the dates for the few the basic certificate, cloud, service cloud, and marketing cloud. And even they shared Apex friendly time zone that available. It's a free webinar. It's a half-a-day webinar. Whenever you are preparing for your Salesforce certification, I strongly recommend it. Try to attend and then get the all the key topics, key areas about the certificate. Helpful. It's no cost, and it's delivered by the certified instructors. And whoever attended, you have your chances to get the discount voucher also. And the next one I have that's also favor for the next week. We have the Sydney World Tour. So join that event. It's an in-person event. So whoever coming, just to say hi to me, I will be there. So then, without wasting further more times, I'm hand over to Ravi. Over to you, Ravi. Please share your screen and intro about yourself and go ahead your session. And attendees, use the chat window for the Q&A and we'll discuss. I'm stop sharing, Ravi, and you can go.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. Okay. So before getting into this session, let me give a quick intro about my. So I am Ravi Narayanan. I have been part of the Salesforce ecosystem for the last 12 years. Currently, I am working in PayPal as a senior software engineer. And then I have done like good amount of Chrome extensions, which are widely used by a lot of users across the globe. And also I do have some open source projects, like for example, for taking the Salesforce, metadata backup, or probably working on some profiles, permissions, these kind of things. And also I have done some test automations using Microsoft Playwright framework. So yeah, little passionate about JavaScript and kind of passionate about building some innovative stuff. So with this, we'll get into the session. So this session is primarily about building your Chrome extensions using your existing knowledge on LWC. So as Salesforce developers, right, we almost transition from Visualforce to Aura to now LWC. And now for as part of our day-to-day development, almost we breathe in and breathe out of this LWC, right? So have you ever imagined if you can use your existing skills or existing knowledge on LWC and start developing applications outside of Salesforce? For example, you can develop a web application, or you can develop a Chrome extension. You can even develop a desktop application. So this is the beauty of this LWC, and thanks to Salesforce for open sourcing this LWC and then coming up with the concept called Lightning Web Runtime, or LWR. So with this, the next slide, I'll go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, just a minute. Okay. So this is just a slide about talking about why do we need these Chrome extensions, right? Because we have a lot of UI frameworks in Salesforce. We have Visualforce, Aura, LWC. So we can develop any custom UI component that is needed, right? So why do we need something which is on top of these actually? So the reason behind this, currently Salesforce gives us very less flexibility actually. For example, if you want to change the setup screen, right, you will not be able to do that. Using these Aura or LWC, you can customize the record page for your users. But as an admin or as a developer, if you want to see some features in Salesforce, right, you will not be able to do that because Salesforce doesn't allow you to customize the setup pages basically. And the second is, as individual developers, right, most of us dream about creating our own application, distributing it to the market, and many people can download and use that application, right? Currently, the only way which Salesforce does is App Exchange actually. So Chrome extension, you can think of it as an alternative, wherein as a developer, you can just create a Google account, you can create a Chrome extension, publish it to the Chrome web store, and then let the users download your extension and start using it. And then the most primary advantage is you will be able to modify the Salesforce screen, actually the Salesforce DOM screen. And second is access to browser APIs. When I say browser APIs, we can access the cookies, we can find the current tab opened by the user. There are lots and lots of Chrome APIs are there which you can use. And third one, as I mentioned already, you can easily create an extension and market it. And the last, like you can build something for your own purpose, right? If you have some requirements, and you need not rely on you need not like wait for Salesforce to release that feature. Meanwhile, you can start developing your Chrome extension, distribute it, and which will in turn help you as well as other developers and admins in the ecosystem. So next slide, this is about the technical architecture on how you can develop the Chrome extensions. So before getting into this, I want to show some Hello World Chrome extension, which will give you a good idea on why do we need this extension, how we can develop this extension and things. So as you can see my screen, this is one of the idea posted in the Salesforce Idea Exchange. It says this that viewing deployed components within view details. So as you know, right, whenever you deploy something using the metadata API in Salesforce or using Jenkins or whatever, this is the screen that we all see actually. We don't get to see what are these 30 components that are deployed as part of this deployment. Right, and whether these are new components, these are the existing components, what are the different types that are deployed for this, we do not have any idea on this. So that's why someone posted this idea in the Idea Exchange, and you can see that it is having around like 94 votes and 940 points. So now what this Hello World application that I have developed now will do, it is going to override this screen, and it is going to take this deployment ID, and it is going to show you one data table which will contain what are the components that are deployed as part of this deployment. So for example, I go to this screen, and now let me try to open any of these record. Okay, so now you can see this screen we have overridden, and we have like injected our own custom component instead of this screen. Now you can see this is the same deployment ID, and it's deployed by myself on so and so date, total success, total failures. And now we can see what are the components that are deployed. For example, these are some custom fields, there are some Epics classes, some Lightning components, permission set and things. So this is what you can do with Chrome extension basically. So these are like the Salesforce setup pages, and we cannot do anything with the LWC or Visualforce page to customize this screen. So we can develop our own extension, and then we can override the screen and build our own awesome components. So this is just the Hello World application, but now I will tell you the technical design, the code behind this, all of these things. So first of all, right, any Salesforce screen that we want to override, right, we need three important things. One is we need the Salesforce session ID, because even though Chrome extensions are like sitting within the Salesforce screen, right, still they are an external application. They are external to Salesforce. So any queries, any API calls, any data that you need from Salesforce, you have to make the API call to Salesforce and get the data. Just like how you integrate a third-party system with Salesforce. So for any integration, as you know, the first thing we need the Salesforce session ID or the access token. So that is the first point. Second is we need access to this DOM or this screen, so we can hide this component and we can inject our own custom component. And the third is we need a JavaScript framework. It can be AngularJS, it can be React, it can be Vue, it can be any JavaScript framework. But I feel like since we are Salesforce developers and we already have a good knowledge on Lightning Web Components, I am comfortable using the Lightning Web Components for any of these Chrome extensions. Okay, so now as I mentioned, the first point, which is about the session ID, right? So what Salesforce does, whenever you open any Salesforce, right, you will be able to find the session ID being stored in the cookies. Okay, now you can see, Yeah, you can see these are the cookies, and now you can see this is my domain, and now here you can find the session ID. So now the first thing that we need is we need to get this session ID, because without that session ID we cannot make any Salesforce server call, right? And also for this task, right, for displaying the list of components, there is an API provided by Salesforce called deployment details. So we need to make call to the deployment details, pass this deployment ID, and then of course pass the session ID as well. Then Salesforce will give us the response saying, hey, for this deployment ID, these are the components that are deployed. So we get that result and we just use the lightning data table and show this table. So now again I will go to this design. Okay. So the first thing I mentioned is session ID, right? So for getting the session ID, I mentioned we need to call the browser cookies. So any Chrome extension, right? Before starting development of Chrome extension, we need to understand two things. One is there is something called background script. Second, there is something called content script actually. So content script is something which will be injected into this screen. For example, now I removed this component and I replaced it with my lightning component, right? So access to this screen or the DOM, that is taken care by the content script. The second one is background script. So background script are very powerful. They have access to the Chrome APIs, they have access to the cookies. So basically it's like a super user. Using the background script, you will be able to access the cookies or access the different Chrome APIs. So now for this Hello World application, what I am going to do, I have a background script which will make a call to the cookies, get the session ID from that cookies, right? And then the next thing that I want to know, the user is present in this screen, right? Because these are Chrome extensions which are going to be installed in the browser. So the user can be in any screen, right? So he can be in the object screen, he can be in a record screen. So the first thing that I want to identify is, for this requirement, the user should be in the deployment status screen and there should be a deployment ID present in the screen, right? So two things just to reiterate. One is getting the session ID from the cookies. Second is getting these the current URL or the current screen of the user. And once we get these two informations, then we will pass that information to the content script. The content script then will so this content script is going to create an iframe window. Inside of that iframe, we will be having our LWC component, which will be then injected into the Salesforce screen. So it's a little tricky, but yeah. So just to reiterate, we take the session ID, we take the current screen, we use the LWC, and then we put it in the Salesforce deployment details screen. So any questions till this point? Maybe you can use the chat window and ask the question before we get into this code. Okay, then yeah. So now let me get into this coding part actually. So first I will open that. So there are basically two folders are there. One is the Google Chrome extension code. Second is the LWR or the LWC code. Now first let me open the Google Chrome extension code. And as I told you, this is the structure of the Google Chrome extension actually. So it will contain a manifest.json. Here we can give the different details, right? What are the name of our extension? What are the different permissions that we need as part of our extension? And also some of the files that we are going to inject into the screen. So I told you, right, first is we have the background.js. So now this is the code for background.js. And now as you can see here, I'm making use of the Chrome APIs. And now I say get the active tab actually, because there are multiple tabs opened in the screen, as you can see, right? I want to get the active tab of the user. Oh, sorry. And then I want to see if the active tab contains deployment status or the deploy status from the URL. You can see here this URL contains deploy status. And now once I'm I can confirm the active tab of the user is deployment status. I have a function here. Again, this function is making use of the Chrome cookies API, and I'm getting this attribute SID. So now I will get the attribute of the user. I will get the session ID of the user, and then I already have the domain URL from my screen. You can see this is going to be my domain URL, and then I'm going to append these things, right? The my.salesforce.com, which is common in any of the dev editions, and for some enhanced like some sandbox contain this domain, sandbox.my.salesforce.com. So using all these things, so now I have the domain URL, I have the session ID, I know that the user is currently in the deployment status screen. So I have all the data that is needed, right? So I am going to pass this data. So you can see here, I am sending some message, and I say send this cookie ID, session ID, send the domain URL. So from background, I am going to pass some data to the content script. So this content script is going to receive this data that the background script is going to send now, and then it is going to create some iframes. These are like the standard JavaScript code actually, where I'm creating an iframe element, and the source for this iframe will be the LWC component or the LWR component, and then I'm going to append some things in the URL, session ID, domain name, the current deployment ID, and then I'm going to so these are some of the Salesforce standard DOMs actually. So now what I do basically, I take this screen, I hide this screen, and then I'm going to create an iframe with my LWC, inject that iframe into this screen basically. So now you can see, right, for example, I go to any deployment record. Okay, so I open any record, and now all of these things will happen. Like, so this ID will be passed from background to content script. Content script will pass this ID to the LWC. The LWC will get this ID, and it is going to make the API call to Salesforce, get the data back, and give the response, and display that in the Lightning data table. So it's common for any record. Like whenever I open any deployment record, all of these things will happen. So for example, I'll open this. So with all these happen like within seconds. So first it goes to the screen, then it gets removed, and the custom code is getting injected. So this is all about the Chrome extension source code. Like we have the background, we have the content script, and then we create an iframe, and then we add this HTML or the LWC code. So now a few things, if you notice here, I am saying is src html main.html, right? So this is present in my folder, in my project directory. So I go to this src html and I open this main.html. So, but the strange thing that you can see here, right? There is no LWC code here, right? So it basically contains like just the title, just the SLDS style sheets, and then it contains just one main.js. That's all. There is no LWC code. There is no HTML, JS, CSS things, right? So basically, this main.js, right? This is going to contain the bundled version of the LWC code actually, because the LWC is basically a node library, right? So if we have to use this in client side, we have to basically use something like Webpack, which will bundle the node modules, and it is going to give us a minification file or a bundled file like this. So now you can assume this main.js contains the LWC code actually, which gets rendered in the screen in the form of a table. So now I will show you how this file is generated actually, how this main.js is generated, and how does this contains the data table or the LWC code. So for that, I will open the Salesforce. So this is my LWR or LWC component actually. So So first of all, you can see this is the standard folder actually, the standard directory in which the LWR will create a project. So basically when you go to this documentation from Salesforce, there are steps like how you can create the LWR project. Okay, so now these are some of the steps by which you can create your LWR project actually. So for this session, we will not go much into LWR because LWR is a separate topic as such. It contains routing, it contains a lot of things actually. But this session, we'll just focus on how you can use this LWR and how you can create a Chrome extension. So, and also I will not execute these steps because these will take a significant amount of time actually. So, but the documentation is pretty clear actually. So you can use these NPM modules and you can create one project. So once you follow these steps and create a project, you will be getting a similar structure like this. So first thing that you notice, we have the SRC and inside of that we have these modules. Inside of the modules, we will be having these code actually, the LWC code. So now this is my LWC component. We say it's deployment status. This is a traditional like standard format that we see when developing LWC within Salesforce also actually. So that is what I said in the beginning. The advantage is you can use the standard out of the box lightning based components and you can build something off the platform. It can be a web app or Chrome extension, desktop, whatever, right? So now we will be familiar with these things, right? These are the standard SLDS designs, and now this is the standard header I have actually. So this is the header, as you can see, right? This is that header, and then I have just one lightning data table. This is again out of the box standard base component. So you can see there are two things here. We have the data and we have the columns. I go to this JS file. I can see these are my column names, name, component, error message. Is it a new component or existing component? Now again what I do, I take these things like I'm already passing, if you see here, right? I am already passing these things in the URL, session ID or domain URL or deployment ID. I read these from the URL, I take these parameters. So again, this is just a very basic hello world. So there are multiple ways by which you can pass the data actually. You can use some Chrome APIs or you can use some secured post messages. But just to give a better understanding about the design, I'm passing things in the URL and taking it from the URL. And then we are instead of connected callback, I'm reading from the URL and I'm calling this function get deployment status. Right now you can see this is my endpoint, services data deploy request, deployment ID, and I'm saying include details equal to 2. Right. So now what happens when I hit this endpoint? I get the data back from Salesforce, which is going to contain the components that are deployed as part of this deployment. And I am just going to refer to this all component messages. I am assigning that value to this dot data, which is referred in my lightning data table. So only one difference actually with the LWC. If you're developing within Salesforce, you will make a call to Apex. The Apex will run some server side logic. It will return the data. But since this is a Chrome extension, there is no real-time server behind the screens. So we make use of the JavaScript itself, and then we make the call from the JavaScript to the Salesforce server. And this file, server.js, it's part of my component, and it contains just two things: get method and patch method actually. That's all. So you can think of like this: just develop one LWC component with Apex within Salesforce, then remove that Apex, then bring in a JavaScript, server.js, and make instead of the Apex code, make the API calls to Salesforce and get the data. So this is going to be the primary difference between developing on the platform and off the platform. Oh, sorry, Ankit. I think is it better now? Can you see the code now?
Yes, Ravi, you were correct actually. I'm able to see you and follow you easily. Yeah.
Okay. So this is all about the LWC. This is a very plain hello world, actually just a data table, just a server logic, get some data back, show it in the screen. Now the key thing is, how do you convert this? Because you can see, right, it has multiple files, HTML, CSS, JS, there is a server.js. How do you bundle this and then convert that into a JavaScript file which can be added in any HTML page, right? So in order to do that, we have something called Webpack. So the Webpack documentation is good. You can go to this Webpack page and then refer to this documentation. But for this call, I will just quickly show you the different configurations. So now you can see here the Webpack. So Webpack is basically a bundler actually. It takes your Node JavaScript project, bundles all these components, and then it will give you a single JavaScript file, which you can include in any client-side JavaScript framework. So as you can see here, I am saying the entry point for my Webpack is source main.js, right? I go to this source, I open this main.js. So you can see here it has just like some 6 lines. And here I am trying to refer to this SF deployment status. This is my LWC component, right? And I'm just creating this element and I'm just using this document.body and adding this LWC component. So this is my entry point for Webpack. So now what Webpack will do, it will go to this script, then it will go here, it will go to my LWC component, and then it will check all the references for my LWC, and then it runs a bundle, and then it will give you some JavaScript file, a bundled JavaScript file, which you can use in client-side frameworks. So let me quickly build this file. I will just type npx I will just type npx Webpack. So now when I type this command, it will go to this file, it will go to this entry, and then it will bundle this LWC component. So this is going to take some amount of time. So once this is bundled, you will see a folder called dist here, like we mentioned here, right? So inside of this dist, you will see a lot of files like this main.js, and then there will be some random main.js. So you need to just copy these files and then paste it inside of your Chrome extension, like how I have done here, right? So this is my Chrome extension code. I have copied that bundled version inside of this JS folder, and then in my HTML for Chrome extension, I am referring to this main.js. So now whenever the Chrome extension is running, it is going to this HTML page, it is going to this main.js, and this main.js is nothing but my LWC code, the bundled version of my LWC code. So that's what you see here in the screen. So first it goes here, it takes the session ID, it takes that Salesforce DOM, and then it render this HTML page. Inside of the HTML, I have a main.js. That main.js is going to point to my LWC component. LWC is going to make the API calls to Salesforce, get the data, and then display that to the user in the table format. Just to give some idea about that API call, I am logging that response. So here you will be able to see. Okay, yeah. So you can see here, this is my deployment result actually. You can see it contains the completed date, created name. Inside of this, there is something called details. Inside of these details, you can see all component messages. So this is what I am referring in my LWC code and then displaying it in the tabular format, in the table format. So go here again. Yeah, you can see here. I go to this deployment result, details, all component message. And then we have these tables and the lightning data table for showing it to the users. So with this, the Hello World application, I'm done with the Hello World application. But I want to also show some Chrome extension that I developed, which can be useful to you, in your day-to-day activities. I'm not sure if how many extension are using it widely currently. So, but the name of the extension is EasyCred. So basically, this extension is going to be integrated in the object's standard detail page. For example, if you go to account, you will be able to find the object and field permissions in that object detail page or setup page, and then using that you will be able to apply CRUD permissions or the FLS permissions in bulk. You also will be able to export the permissions if you want to take some backup. So this is the extensions overview actually. Let me quickly give a demo. So now I'm in the account detail page. So when this is loading, I think Ankit, you are asking question when making call to Salesforce to get the deployment details, does it not require cars whitelisting? Okay. So I got your question, but the thing here, right? We are injecting the HTML page or the LWC within Salesforce, within the Salesforce DOM actually. So when the API call is being made, it is going to be made from force.com domain. It is not going to be made from the Chrome extension, but instead it is going to be made from the standard Salesforce domain. So we don't need the whitelisting to be done here. That is the advantage with content script. You are directly injecting something in the DOM actually. Okay. Now I am in the account object, and now you can see there are two things: object permissions and field permissions. First, let me click on this object permissions. You can see that it looks just like the Salesforce screen actually. So that is the advantage in developing something with LWC OSs, right? Because you get the out of the box components, you get the standard Salesforce look and feel, and as well when Salesforce is going to enhance or release some new components, right, you will still be able to use those components. So with a quick demo, I go to the object permissions. I can see all the profiles, permission set, everything. And there is a chart here. Using this, you can see how many profiles contain create access, how many contain modify all access, and then there is an option. Using this, you can export the permissions, and then there are options wherein you can provide bulk permissions. For example, let me type custom profile. Right, this is going to search, and it is going to show only the custom profiles. I can just click here. It is going to add the create permissions for everything. And now once I am done, I can just click on this save button. This is going to add create permissions for all of these profiles. So similarly, you can search. You can also filter based on modify all, or let's say view all, whatever. And again, we have the field permissions here. So you will be able to find all the fields, click on any of the field, then search based on some keyword to give that permissions. So it is a combination of both profiles and permission set. Okay, so it says if there are some errors, it will be displayed like this. So just like data loader, near to the row, you can find the reason for the error. So it says bad value. So meaning you will not be able to provide access to this field, for these things. Let me go to some field test. I'll type custom. I'll be able to apply these permissions, and I can export the FLS also. So this is all quickly about this eSecret Chrome extension. And even for deployment status, I just want to show you a very basic example. That's why I have just a table here. But previously, like 2 years back, I believe, I have developed some Chrome extensions again, which will give you in a better perspective. Actually, which will display some chart, which will display some tables, everything. And it need not be always you make Salesforce API calls and things. You can develop some funny apps. Like for example, if you are in a chatter, right? You want to make the user to speak, convert the voice to text, and add it to the chatter. So these are also some of the things. Here we need not make any API call. We just need to access the Salesforce screen, add a mic icon, and then use some JavaScript for doing these things. So there are a lot of possibilities with the Chrome extensions, and I know many of you will be using the popular extension Salesforce Inspector as well. Yeah. Can you please repeat this eSecret? Okay, sure. So the first thing with eSecret, go to any object manager. Sorry, go to the object manager. Go to any object that you want. Let me go to account. And then you will be able to see these two things are added. So first you have to go to this extension, add this extension to your Chrome browser. Once you add and then open, just refresh your browser actually, and then go to the object manager, go to any object that you want, and now you will be able to see these two things are added: object permissions and field permissions. So when you go to this object permissions, this is going to query the Salesforce database, and this is going to bring you all the existing permissions, right? For example, currently these are the profiles that are having create access and read access. You will be able to filter based on all these things. So I filter based on permission set now. I can see all the permissions here, and I can see what are the access for each of these permission set. Along with this, you also have the option to search in this search box and then make changes. So let's say I want to give edit permissions to these profiles. I want to give delete permissions to these profiles. Make changes. If you want, just review the changes, whatever you have done, and then hit the save button. This is going to apply these permissions. Okay, so but these two are not applied. As you can see, it says delete depends on the edit. So without giving edit access, we cannot give the delete access. So now even when you go to audit trial, you will still able to see what are the changes that you have applied for these profiles and permission set. So does this answer your question, Nakash? Okay, so I assume. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think with this I'm done. I'll open it for any questions. I know it's a broad topic, so we'll not be able to cover everything in LWC. Maybe we need a separate call to start to start with creating that LWR, and then starting with the basics. But this is all about Chrome extensions, like how you can use LWC, bundle that, convert that to a Chrome extension, then publish it to the web store or the Chrome web store, and let the users download and use it.
Yeah, right. At least it's a good part to think about some new stuffs through the implementing the Google Chrome instances using the LWC through LWR.
Yeah, hi Ravi, Nikhil here. Yeah, pretty good session. Thanks for that. I have a quick question. Is there any place where we can check where all the APIs, what all APIs available in Salesforce? Is there any central place? Like you figured out there is a deployment / process, that API you figured out, right? Is there any place where we can see what all APIs available?
Yes, definitely. I think Salesforce documentation provides that, Nikhil, actually. So for example, there are different APIs in Salesforce, right? We have the metadata API, tooling API. So when you go to this documentation, I think pretty much they have given all the let me show you actually. So you can see here, they have given like the reference to everything actually. How you can use the API and deploy, how you can get the deployment status. So what I do usually, I go to the workbench and I try to execute these APIs and get the data. Yeah, I think Vimal answered that. Yeah. So workbench is a good point, Nikhil, wherein you can find all the available resources. And I think there are some Postman collections also there from Salesforce, but I couldn't get
that's
that.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, there are some collections are there. I don't have it ready-made, but I can share it with you offline. You can just ping me.
That I have, I guess.
I
booked that repo. Yeah, that's
awesome.
fine.
Okay, nice.
Are you gonna share the repo as well? That the demo that you showed, or?
Yeah, this Hello World is still not at in a repo, but I will put it in a repo and I will share it with all of you.
Yeah,
I'll share
it
it
would be
with
great for us.
We can share it with the team. Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Collect with him and then we will pass it, Nikhil. Yeah.
Perfect.
From audience, anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute by yourself and then you can ask.
And if we have time, right, I'll quickly show you something. So this e-secret that you guys saw now, right? So I did not create that as an extension first actually. I created an unmanaged package. I created something with Apex actually. And then I just used the same LWC code, but I removed Apex. And instead of Apex, I introduced this Chrome extension JavaScript layer. I will try to share that also actually. Sorry, go ahead with questions. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. So this is that unmanaged package, but here you can see if you are not comfortable with extensions, right? You can still use this, and you will be able to do all these CRUD updates or permission updates. This is just using Apex, but the Chrome extension that you saw now uses the same LWC code. Only instead of Apex, we have a different service JavaScript layer. Yeah, we'll stop here.
Yep. Okay, if there is no further question, then I think we can. Someone asking, Keval. Sorry to interrupt, Nikhil. I am trying to reach you since last.
I will reply. Shakti, leave it there.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Agas asking either I need to learn StuffX or LWC. Yeah, if you're trying to learn something about the Salesforce development, I think you need to learn both the things, Apex and LWC.
Probably Apex will be a good starting point to study about the servers, getting the data and things. And then, yeah, of course, the LWC will also.
Right. Okay. If there is no further question, then we can wrap it up. Thank you all for joining. Once again, thank you, Ravi. I think it's very informative altogether, end-to-end walkthrough. And interestingly, it's a step-by-step guide demo. And hope this is helpful to everyone. And also you covered most of the Q&A from audience perspective. Thanks again to sharing your knowledge to the Trailblazer community. Here, audience, if anyone interested to share any of the techniques, please feel free to reach out to me. We will have a session upcoming months. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Shakti, for this opportunity, and thank you all for joining.
Thank you.